Today we're just south of Wapawekka Lake on Highway 912, and we're going to look at a Catena sequence here, going from this sand dune and walking down into a very wet area. And at the top of the sand dune you can see some interesting vegetation here. We've got some bearberry, some sand heather, a few grasses, some lichen, harebells, and here is some sand heather that is actually flowering with their yellow flower. So this is kind of the top of the slope, top of the Catena sequence, and we will be working our way down. Here we are into some jack pine trees. Now this area was logged probably about 15-20 years ago for jack pine, and jack pine have been planted here. There are some naturals that have come in too, but you can still see some sand heather, some lichen, some bearberry. Starting to see a few mosses in some of the low-lying areas. Again, still a jack pine canopy. More of an open area, but little ground cover. A lot of bare soil, and some of that actually has to do with some of the pits that were dug here in the past. But we still have some sand heather, some bearberry, some reindeer lichen, Catena stellaris, I believe, are these ones here. Here's a nice example of that. Some people use this for their model railway stations that they have in their basements as to represent the vegetation. Maybe you've seen that before. But now it gets real interesting because we're going to start descending the slope and coming into a lower depressional area, and we can start seeing some differences in vegetation. All of a sudden there's a pickup in blueberry, Labrador tea, and some different overstory species now. We can see that we have some tamarack, we have some black spruce, and a few jack pine, some alder. We'll talk about this pit later. And then here we're at this transition zone between this upland soil and now this organic soil, this wetland. And we've got a lot of black spruce that are ringing this wet area, and a lot of ericaceous type shrubs. So we have Labrador tea, there's some bog laurel, which has those kind of reddish little tops on them, and I think either they're getting ready to flower or they already have flowered, and those are the fruiting bodies. You can see some other kind of ground vegetation, and then also you can see sphagnum moss. So this will be a completely different eco-site than what we just walked through as we were walking down the Catena. And as we get further into this wetland area, you can now see that we have some sedges and some open water. So this change in landscape position has resulted in a dramatic change in vegetation, and the key for you will be to figure out what are the ecosites for each of these different sites in conjunction with the soil pits that we will be digging here. Again, I'll just move over here. Here's a better spot of the sphagnum moss. But I've always loved these areas. They're always really interesting. And if you're standing here, you can actually bounce up and down on this stuff. I'm not sure how good a pit I'll be able to dig out here. Really able to see anything, but this just gives you an idea of the kinds of things that happen in these northern landscapes. You get these depressional areas that have a lot of water in them and result in this very different kind of vegetation.